The world turns, and with each turn, a change. And each change makes it more complex, unpredictable, enigmatic. The world keeps turning. And from the Pellicer and Heredia practice, we anticipate everything that is going to happen. Brexit, artificial intelligence, new commercial borders, legal tech. The world keeps turning, and it commands the reliance on international lawyers who are capable of interpreting this new reality with integrity, honesty, and transparency, offering answers to so many new questions. Whatever it is, ask us. At Pellicer and Heredia, we know how.
Hello everyone, nice to see you again in this webinar that we have organized for you today. Today, the webinar, as you have seen, the topic is for non-residents, and we mainly are going to inform you about what are the tax consequences, which is a tax scenario for non-residents. Are you a non-resident that has already invested in Spain, and you are renting a property in Spain? Or maybe you are a non-resident or someone who wants to invest in Spain without being resident in Spain, and you would like to know what are the tax implications on renting a property or to have some assets in Spain. Well, we will be informing you with two extraordinary experts, which is the first one will be Ignacio Pellicer from Pellicer Heredia. Hello, Ignacio.
Hello, Pedro. Nice to see you back again in the webinars, and thank you for your time, everyone being today.
And also is joining us from the south of Spain, from Andalusia, Michael Davies from Davies Solicitors. Hello, David. Michael? He cannot.
Hello, Pedro, Ignacio, you're with me now?
Hi, Michael.
Nice to see you again.
Okay. Well, as I said, the webinar is going to be focused on the situation for non-residents in Spain who mainly have property or is investing in a property with assets in Spain as non-resident. Okay, well, let's start with the situation in order to explain the scenario. And Ignacio is going to start with explaining us some key points about residency and non-residents, and also about the non-resident situation for taxes.
Okay, thank you very much, Pedro. Shall I start now with this, all this information about doing your non-resident tax? Right. If you are a non-resident, as Pedro stated, who is a non-resident? That first question you might have in your mind, am I a non-resident or could I be a non-resident? Good question. Now, bear in mind with me, don't get confused having the residencia card with fiscal. Okay, there's two different administrations, the immigration office and the tax office. Okay, it's a very delicate issue, but there are certain scenarios that you could still have some residency cards, for example, the one who's got the golden visa card, and still be non-resident from a tax point of view. Okay, but just for you to understand, and I'm going to try to be very brief because there are a lot of numbers, a lot of ideas, and we will share all this information through our blog with yourself, okay? Now, first question, how does it work in Spain from a tax point of view, Pedro? So first question is, how do I start? Right, let's say 1st of January of, let's call it 2023, okay? Because we're starting pretty soon. And then you have 31st of the 12th of 2023. Or for those who you already haven't done yet the non-resident tax, just put a 2 here, 2022, because you're still on time to do the non-resident tax and the wealth tax for non-residents. Okay, don't get confused, but this is something that we will discuss in a minute. Okay, who's that non-resident taxpayer? The one who spends in Spain less than 183 days. Right. In a calendar year. What does it mean? You are 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, up to 6 months It doesn't matter whether you are in different months, okay? And we always discuss, Pedro, it depends on the evidence, okay? How do they know?
That's right. It's a matter of proof, obviously, about the passport, about many kind of proof you can show in order to say, well, I'm resident or not, or I'm being less than 183 days or more. Yeah.
Because what you need to be aware is, in case of an inspection from the tax office, you need to have all these documents in place. It's not difficult to have them in place, to put it on file and save it up to 4 years. Okay, because that will be the time they could go back to you and make you questions.
And also it's important to inform, I mean, obviously, whenever you are non-resident and you invest in property non-residence, in order to keep your residency, it's important that you fulfill the requirements of your home country. Yes?
That's good, because if you think about this, Pedro, I want to be non-resident, and then how can I put things in motion, doing properly? We need to read the dual taxation treaty, special regime for you. What are the days we need to stay? And then you work out with a situation, because here is tax planning and you need to do it yourself. I mean, it's something you could prevent. So I really encourage you all to do your homework, because I think they're worth it, aren't they? Except having fines and issues, yeah? Right, so first piece of advice, less than 183 days for non-resident. Now, who needs to pay for that? These people who have, according to the dual taxation treaty, property in Spain, for some citizens of a different country, but in some different regimes or countries, you have to say whether you have money in the bank, whether you have more assets in general in Spain. Okay, so it's always worth it, depending on, because I really don't know where are you watching us from. If you are from abroad, just send us a message. I think one friend is going to send you a message there asking you these things, so we could understand, because we've got Guillermo as well on the other side, just in case we could give you general advice on some questions you might have, okay, which Pedro will be going through and giving you the answer. But just going back to square number one, less than 183 days, then you need to have assets in Spain. Depending on the dual taxation treaty, for example, I think it's Article 21, I think in the UK dual taxation treaty between Spain and the UK, I think it refers what is included as well and what it is excluded. But let's say in the UK, for example, is property in Spain. In United States, it covers everything. For example, you've got money in Spain. If you've got assets, boats, yachts, etc., jewels, etc. And now I'm going to explain to you. I did some homework for you, and I left it all written down. And to save time and not to bore you too much, let's see whether that works. Can you see it properly? Yeah, from there? Bit more? Right. I did some example for you, because some of you might be asking, Ignacio, how does it work? How much is the money? I'm trying to buy property in Spain, etc., etc. Let's keep it simple. If you have a property about, Pedro, 209,000 euros, right? What do I need to do the non-resident tax? Well, the non-resident tax, as I said, it goes from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. So this year, 2022, you'll be doing, you should have been doing the 2021, because you've got 1 year to do it. And this year, 2022, you'll be doing the following year from January to December. So you always do 1 year behind, okay? Sorry, after. So 2022, you'll be doing 2023. This year, we're doing 2021. So you always do it after. Right, what do you have? You need an escritura. Most of you, or some of you, have enough planned property purchase, and they still don't have the reference from the cadastral, okay? Which is the EB, and the EB is the rate, the council tax, the town hall council tax, okay? You will find it out in that payslip, the value for the land and the value for the house, okay? We will need that information. Or alternatively, if you don't have it, you've got the title deed, which the average, to work it out, is 50% of the value of the purchase price. So it's like two systems for us to work out how much tax you pay. Right. Purchase value, 209. Catastral value, I know it's hard to believe, 25,000 euros.
Which is not market value.
It's not market value, it's just tax value, which is great because it helps us to use that value and hopefully pay less, okay? Right, how does it work? You could, whatever value you're using, and depending whether that value is being reviewed, in 10 past years, then we will multiply 1.1 or 2%, okay? For example, here, purchase value, obviously less than 10 years. Now, we don't have a reference here. You'll be paying the base, so the value of 209, 50%, multiply 1.1, this is a base, 1,149. I don't know if you can see it properly. Now, the difference on what you need to know is whether you are a European or a non-European. If you're a European, you'll pay on this base 19%, which will be talking about 218 euros for this property per year. If you're a non-European, you'll be talking about 275 euros council tax, well, no council tax, non-resident tax 1 year, okay? I just wrote down these figures so you know roughly what sort of figures we're talking about, Pedro.
Exactly. This is a total amount in case it's bought by two people.
Yeah.
The end total amount would be that amount anyway.
Two people, you'll have to do a declaration, two people. So you'll have to declare all this information in two forms. Okay, important, not only one person. Right, let's say you say, Ignacio, I have, it's a resale, and then I'm buying, and then I have a Suma bill, which is here, and is IBI in different provinces. Okay, 25,000 euros. Right, you will multiply probably, depending whether that value is being reviewed, 1.1 or 2, right? So this is a different formula. If you're using that value, you have 500 euros here, the base.
To be taxed.
And you have 19% for Europeans and 24% for non-Europeans. So we'll be talking about 95 euros per year or 120. We're still talking about reasonable money. You know, we're talking about 200 euros, 275 in a worst case scenario, or just a 95. So we're not talking about a massive tax based on this figure. If we were talking, Pedro, about €1 million, which I did the homework here, we'll be talking about an average of 700 euros non-resident tax. Okay, just giving you a little bit of guidance on that. I'll explain to you what is this, because this is more about non-resident wealth tax. And another piece of advice I wanted to share with them, Pedro, is when you rent out a property. Say, Ignacio, okay, I've got a property. I spent here several times, several months. This is what I'm paying. So far, so good. Great. How about if I'm renting it out to a third party, people, business, Airbnb booking, whatever you're renting it. Right. I need you to give your accountant the days in every quarter of the year, January to March, April to June, etc., the days is being rent out and the days you've been living in the property. Okay, two different forms. How many days you've been living there? X. How many days being rent out? X. Now, difference, European and non-European. I need all your income and I need all the expenses of the property, but only for the Europeans, because that will be from the net, you'll pay 19%. If you're non-European, then I only need the income, and then you'll be taxed at 24%. No deductions allowed. Okay? If in these days or during all the rental, Pedro, there's been some days that you've been living in the property, then you'll need to do an annual form, like exactly the same as this one, but only based on the days you've been living in the property. So you'll be days I've been in the property, a proportion of this. Days I rent out, whatever profit I had. Because if you didn't make a profit, you're not obliged to do the quarter non-resident tax. Right. How about if now, say, Ignacio, okay, I've got property, but what about wealth tax? State wealth tax, because as you know, for non-residents is governed still by the state, the non-resident tax and wealth tax. Right, the allowance you have is 700,000 euros. And you'll have, it depends on the money you have here. As I said, depending on the dual taxation treaty you are with, we'll be talking about only property or just movable assets, money in the account, yachts, etc. Now, let's say you have a property of €1 million. You've got an allowance of 700 euros. So the wealth will be taxed from 0.2 to 3.5. It's a sliding scale. You've got it in the website. You could click in our website, wealth tax in Spain, and you will see that. The thing is, resident and non-resident is different with the allowances. And now Michael will explain how it works as well in Andalusia as a resident as well, because non-resident, it will be the same all throughout Spain. Right. So I took the liberty to make some homework here and say, if I had €1 million property, I've got an allowance of 700,000. So I still have 300, which will be at a marginal rate here. Okay. What happens? I'll have to pay per year, based on that, 700 euros approx. Okay. For wealth tax. And on top of that, you'll need to pay non-resident tax, depending whether you made profit or you did not make profit. If you made profit, you just pay according to the percentage of the country where you come from. And I did here, for €1 million, probably it could go about 700, but we will always need the cadastral value to keep it low or to keep it simple. Okay, right. Important things, as I said, less than 183 days. 2, whether you've got assets in Spain. 3, what kind of assets you've got in Spain. 4, dual taxation treaty. Which one? What country are you coming from and what special regime you have? 5, work out in advance to now. Okay, and we could do planning.
Okay, that's right. Perfect. Let me add one thing regarding this 19% for European Union countries and the 24%. Obviously, this European Union countries needs to be added Norway and Iceland. And we always forget about Norway and Iceland, but obviously these European Union countries plus these 2 countries. And at this time, right now, it is being appealed. It was appealed in the European Union Commission in order to why these discriminatory rights, in order to, if I'm European Union citizen or Norway, Iceland, why do I get this benefit? And those who are living in, for example, in the UK are not getting this benefit and are paying 24% gross, not just from the UK, obviously for 3 countries in the world, and Canada, US, or even the Spanish who are not residents in Spain are living in US or UK who owns properties in Spain, who has to pay 24% gross of the amount that they get. At this time, this has been appealed in the European Union Commission last year, and now it was blocked. Now it's an appeal in we call it Audiencia Nacional, which we understand will be like a resolution for the beginning next year. And it is focused on 2 different things. One thing is about why this is discriminatory in order to obtain a benefit and pay just 19% of the income, the net income, and in order to be able to include these costs like reparations, like amortization, council tax. And also it's not just focused on that, also focus on, we didn't say that because it's for residents, but also about the residents have a benefit or reduction of 60% of the base when it's a long-term contract. Obviously, in this appeal, in the Audiencia Nacional, it's also included this appeal in order to why this discriminatory right is happening right now in Spain. If I'm buying a property as non-resident from a 3rd country, I should be getting also this benefit if it's long-term contract, for example. Just to add that, but next year we'll have some information about.
Yeah, it's a matter of doctrine
Exactly,
eventually, and what is going to be. I think Marisa is saying here that people are contacting Pedro from Spain, Italy, Luxembourg, Connecticut, London,
Norway, Emirates, Tunis, Tunisia, and Canada. But by the way, I've lived in Connecticut, so hello from Connecticut. It's a fantastic place. And also we've been living in London, and Michael has a very special connection with the UK. Hello, Michael.
Hello, how are you? Well, I'm English, so that's the connection.
That's why I say that. Okay, well,
right. Shall I pass it over to you, Pedro, to run through it? Because I gave the basics here, and I think Michael probably could give us a little bit of his side in Andalusia, or from his experience, because they deal with non-resident tax as well.
Exactly.
Over to you, Michael.
Hi, okay, so everyone watching, I'm Michael Davies. I'm a Spanish lawyer. We operate down in the Andalusia region. Our firm is Davies Solicitors. Okay, so well, basically the non-resident tax, the non-resident income tax for non-residents has already been explained by Ignacio and Pedro, and there is nothing more to add because it's exactly the same in Andalusia as it is up in the Valencia region, which is where they are based. Wealth tax is slightly different. So when we talk about wealth tax for non-residents, the first thing I'd just like to quickly clarify is that where wealth tax does exist, because it doesn't exist in all Spanish regions, the exempt amount, which is usually €700,000, is per person. So if it's a married couple, it's a married couple, their property would have to be, as non-residents, the property would have to be worth over $1,400,000 to be taxable as on wealth tax in most regions of Spain. So
that's correct, Michael. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, up in the Valencia region, you've got this. The wealth tax has got the exempt amount for non-residents of €700,000 per person. In most regions of Spain where wealth tax exists, the exemption is that €700,000 with the odd exception. In Andalusia and Madrid, we're lucky we don't have any wealth tax. So there's one other thing that has to be, I think, mentioned, because it's a new law that's come out this year, which is what they basically have called the wealth tax on the super rich, which is a new tax starting next year, which is going to be disputed in the court. So we don't know for certain whether they're going to manage to get away with it or not. But basically, what that tax is like a special tax imposed on the national level for non-residents all over Spain, and basically they would tax you if your assets in Spain are above €3 million. So again, that's €3 million per person. So if you have a very nice property down in Marbella and the value is more than €6 million, then you would have to pay from next year onwards this special wealth tax for the rich. It's applicable to residents as well, but in the case of the residents, it's applicable not only on assets in Spain but on assets worldwide. But today we're talking about non-residents. So with this special wealth tax on the rich, the thing that's a bit special about it is you would be able to deduct the wealth tax that you've paid if in your specific region there was wealth tax to be paid. Can you hear me, Ignacio?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think it broke. Now we can, Michael. Yes, go on.
Could you not hear me before? Or
yeah.
It just was 1 second. I wasn't sure whether I was. Okay.
Yeah, so basically with the wealth tax, I want to clarify that it's €700,000 per person in the regions where it is applicable. That there are some regions like Andalusia where there isn't any wealth tax, but people need to take into account if they're going to buy a property in one name of €3 million or more, or in two names of €6 million or more, they have to take into account that from next year onwards, we're going to have a special wealth tax on the super rich, which could be applicable unless the disputes through the courts take their course and are successful.
Okay, Michael, thank you. Yes, let me just clarify here, Paco, as well, that as Michael stated, This is per person. So you're fully right, is 1,400,000 euros. Okay. So 700,000 euros allowance per person. So we'll be talking about 1 million. When I meant it was per person. Okay. Million per person, Michael. Yeah. Is it clearer?
Ignacio, and one little other thing that you did actually mention it, but for some reason I think that people are not quite aware of it. And as you've mentioned it on passing, I heard you say it, that when we talk about the values, again, it's not market value, it's cadastral value that is normally quite a lot lower than the market value. Yeah. So people get surprised when their property is worth more than the 700,000 euro, and yet we tell them that there's no wealth tax to be paid. And they say, well, why is that? Well, that's because the cadastral value of their property is lower than the 700,000. So they'll need to ask, your solicitor about the values.
Michael, yes, we'll be talking about here 700,000 euros market value, but yes, if it's 1,400,000,
exactly,
then obviously cadastral value, which is we were mentioning here, will be probably, Michael, we've been working now with different areas, probably I would say 25% of market value sometimes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Michael and Ignacio, let's start with that. We have plenty of questions right now to answer, so let's start with them, and let's go for it. Regarding any question that we may have right now. Well, first question says, are there any tax implications for renting a home during our annual stays in Spain, or versus buying a second home in Spain, which we would occupy only 6 months each year? Well, if you have a second home property in Spain, you will have to pay this non-resident tax, as has been already explained by Ignacio, even if you occupy 1 month, 1 day, or 300 or 182 days, for example. And okay,
shall we start with all the questions? Yeah.
So what if we choose to stay? Oh, I have already read that.
Okay.
If we choose to stay longer than 183 days each year, becoming residents, what are the implications regarding our US individual retirement accounts and IRA in relation with wealth tax and solidarity tax, which is a new tax that is being mentioned by Michael? Well, obviously, I mean, this IRA, this individual retirement accounts, it should be included.
But that's for residents, Pedro. Is he asking for residents?
Yeah, exactly. He's becoming resident.
He's becoming resident.
If he doesn't become resident, obviously not. It is not in the territory of Spain. And in many double taxation treaties, the guest will be included, just the asset of property and not the other ones. But in this case, you become residents, there is obligation personal, so there's no obligation with wealth tax, and the IRA should be included in the wealth tax as a private pensioner.
Let me just mention one thing. It is important that you guys do tax planning. Why? Because when you are moving over to Spain, if you're already here, you still could do tax planning. I mean, you need to understand, sit down with your lawyer or your tax advisor, how much it costs you everything from one angle, from the other angle, and then you make a decision in your life whether you're going to live here, live in a different place, as Michael said, shop around in different regions, because over there could be better. I know it's difficult to be accurate because the laws change very often. I mean, this tax about the solidarity, I don't know how much is going to last. And I don't know how much is going to last the wealth tax if we have a change of government, to be honest. Yeah. So we're just telling you as today stands as a general advice, but very important that you do tax planning. How much do I pay as a non-resident? How much do I pay as a resident? Or would I pay? You know, and how about if I set up a company and I do business, because all these properties probably will not be affected with this tax. It is part of an activity because that's not non-resident tax, will not tax activities. Okay. Over to you.
Okay, let's go forward. Adrian, thank you for the question. It's a slightly long question. Let me just start reading it. We have a residential with a withdrawal agreement. You stay under 183 days, so therefore you are non-tax residents. You are non-resident. You spend less than 183 days, as it's been said, so you are not tax resident. And you are buying a property in Vera, with in the area of Almeria, in Andalusia, which where Michael will be able to help you find where he's based in that specific area also. So will we pay tax as non don't understand that as a non-resident, or we are
Non-resident.
non-fiscal resident. Obviously, if you are going to become resident next year, if you buy a property, and you are less than 183 days, you are non-resident. You will be resident if you buy a property and then you stay more than 183 days in 2023. I mean, those years before, you are non-resident for tax purposes. So if you bought a property or you're going to buy a property this year, you will be non-resident for 2022. If you sold a property, it says in the following paragraph, of property in the past, let's say, or this year, 2022, or the past, well, nothing to do, nothing to worry regarding capital gains tax, nothing to worry about taxes in Spain, really, okay? So it's really just for the property that you're buying through or the year that you are non-resident for as a non-resident tax. Okay, let's go for more questions. Let me see in the...
I think we have here, Pedro.
I'm in California. I bought a property in Spain in February 2022. I spent less than 183 days in Spain last year.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have my residency and my TIE card from the 24th of December 2020. Well, we presume that in this case, 2021 has been resident in Spain, 2022 resident in Spain. Well, that situation changed, and also tax resident. From Michael from Canada. But leaving November 2023 to become tax resident of Panama. Going forward, have 2 properties in Spain, 1 completed and 1 pre-construction due 2026 to rent out particularly and also use personally for a month or 2 years. Also have 60,000 euros investment. Well, obviously, the property which you already bought in Spain is completed. You made a completion, it will be for non-resident tax. The other one from 2026, once it's already completed, because it's an off-plan, it looks like it's an off-plan property, will also have to be included in 2026, so will be the tax to be paid in 2027. And if it's, that's about that, just about that. I mean, obviously, from Caja Sur, that investment that you have, if you get some income, that also will have to be paid some income about that, but not will be taxed that 60,000 euros.
Right, this one's being answered, yes.
Yeah, that one answered.
And we could go this one here. Right, Brian is asking, I'm non-resident and receive rental income from my apartment in Alicante. I have 5 quarterly Modelo 210 returns and remittance. And I'm in full compliance, or am I in full compliance, or are there other returns
It's full
I need
compliance.
to file? I think it's full
Yeah,
compliance.
it's full compliance, yeah, for sure.
Right, he will only have to do 1 annual in case. So Brian, you'll have to do 1 annually, right? Because if you're renting it out, you do quarterly. But if there are days they are empty where you're living in and you're not renting it out, well, living or not living, but not renting it out, you'll need to do 1 annual. Yeah. So total 5 forms. Okay, so 1 per quarter if you rent, and 1 per year in this case. If you're not renting, it's always 1 per year. Okay.
Okay. Following question is, how is the value determined in wealth tax? Okay, well, wealth tax. What we ask normally to clients when we file the wealth tax is about the purchase price. But there are three important numbers in the wealth tax. It's valor catastral, or the value which is already inspected by tax office, or the acquisition price, the price that you pay when you bought it. There are some also resolutions that says that maybe should be included also the cost, which means the tax, the transmission tax. But there are some other resolutions that not. So let's say cadastral value or inspected value by tax office, or purchase price, which normally is always purchase price, which is the highest one between cadastral, obviously, and market value. So it is purchase price, the price that you bought, the price that you include in the deed when you made a completion date, on a completion date. And if I think the question is regarding if you buy a property, let's say it is 600,000 euros, and then you make a reforma, you make a refurbish about another 600,000 euros more, which is the value to be included. The value is the purchase value again, as it says. It's the biggest one of cadastral, inspected one, or purchase one. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Can you deduct the loans
Well, that's a good question.
No,
the same question. Okay.
you-
Well, that's fantastic. Obviously, is a
but it's not, because you need to always work on the purchase value, not including, but I don't know what it means.
well. I think what he says he wants to say is about what if I have a. I mean, if you let's put an example. But let me explain that
Let's go
a little
let's
bit.
go.
Let me explain that in the
Yeah.
wealth tax.
Yeah.
As
Let's pass to the other one, the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me put
no, it's
this.
okay. It's okay here. It's okay.
We've got space
Yeah.
in the other.
I mean, obviously there are some, and it was really important what Ignacio said about the double taxation treaties, because there are some agreements between Spain and some countries that has a speciality about a real estate company, so a company outside Spain that buys a property in Spain, for example, or a company in Spain that buys a property in a different country. There are some tax regime between that, but there are some other convention between Spain and some other countries that do not say anything about that. And there are also with countries that there is not even convention, there is nothing to say about wealth tax. So how does this works? It's a little bit complex, but I will just try to answer this question about the debt. If you buy a property, let's say of 3 million euros, well, as one of the things that it was said, okay, as much as personal is bought, but because it's going to be reduced individually, 700,000 euros. But what if I buy with a company? It's included. It should be included in the wealth tax or not. In some countries, depending on the country, and then we need to go specifically to the convention agreement, double taxation treaty, to see if it should be included or not. But in many countries, could be bought by a foreign company in order to avoid this wealth tax. And another huge issue, which is important to know in order to avoid some way wealth tax, is to apply for a mortgage or loan in order to buy the property, which will give you an asset, but will give you a debt, will decrease the value of the wealth tax. So that's an strategy. There are so many people that says, okay, well, I will put money somewhere, I will get a loan from the same bank, I will buy the asset, and I will not have any, or mostly nothing about wealth tax.
Well, that's a good one, Pedro. Yeah, but yes,
And that's important, but obviously this needs to be said about planning, because with not all the countries, with many countries can be done, but with some of them needs to be done in a different way.
that's why it's so important to do planning, because there are different solutions or possibilities for you. And I always recommend, Pedro, because I don't like seeing people with problems, even though unfortunately we'll always see once in a while issues. But if everything could be sorted, then the video conference is the right way if you're abroad, or if even in an appointment, personal appointment.
That's right.
And work out different scenarios, because that exactly what Pedro stated here, Pedro, it makes this disappearing.
Exactly. Or
minimize it.
Minimize it. Some clients that say, oh, how do they have a business? Do I buy the property with the business? Well, that will be, well, it depends also on how do you want to put this property out of the activity on the family names, or also needs to be talked about inheritance. But it's important to at the end to have a planning on taxes on this. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's go for the following, because we have some
Okay.
questions.
Let's go for it. Let's go for next one. Pedro,
Let me see.
you've got better sight than myself. So let's open up.
Well,
I think, did we answer this one here? This one here?
okay, just read it. Just read
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Good afternoon. My wife, a UK resident, became part owner of a property in Menorca, along with her mother
And brother.
and brother on the death of her grandparents around 2002. Her mother has lived in the property since and paid council tax.
And the other tax, property tax.
Yeah. My wife has no other assets in Spain and has never lived in Spain or become a resident at any time in Spain. My wife has an NI number from that time that she or her brother owe any non-resident tax. She has never been contacted by the Spanish authority. Okay, that's a good one.
question.
Let's
I
go
was
for
going to
it.
ask you that about what happens if someone has not done it.
I mentioned before about the 4 years, but probably
Oh,
you
okay.
remember that. But go for it.
No, go for it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there is an obligation in order to declare as a non-resident the property that you own. Obviously, at the time of the, even though you have not made an acceptance of the inheritance, you become really resident. You have to declare the assets that you own in Spain as non-resident. In this case, a property.
You have a share.
You have a share.
Yeah.
So obviously, has not been done ever. The authorities do not know it, but it is something that obviously you need to do that. How many years you should be doing in order to put everything on place? That's a good question.
Well, yeah, that's what we mentioned at the very beginning, but I understand that there is so much information that you probably did not even realize. I said up to 4 years, the tax office could get back to you, send you a letter, and then they will send you a letter asking you, are you a resident or non-resident? Because we've got some evidence here. And that's why I think it's so important, Pedro, to have paperwork trail in the safe, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right, Michael, would you like to comment any of the questions in the panel?
I think there's someone, but let me just check.
I think Michael is not here. I think we lost Michael, yeah? Right.
Okay, well, let's go for it. Someone is asking, thank you, Mark, for the question. Someone is asking about the nomad visa.
Yeah.
It's going to have a insignificant impact, obviously, but obviously, let's wait until we have something consolidated, which we understand it is right now, but it's going to happen, maybe some slightly changes in the Senate. And at the beginning of next year, we will make a special webinar in order to produce and inform about the tax implication and how to apply this nomad visa, which we understand is going to be like a easy way in order to apply and get it fast.
Yeah, even though, Pedro, I think I'm going to just text and send them the link of the article. And let me just find out whether I could post this. I'll post you here the link where you could see about the NOMA visa. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to just as well send you here the link of non-resident tax for those who might need to read a bit more about non-resident tax, okay? Because probably you need a little bit of copying and pasting here. And if you see, there are more articles in the website about everything, you know, about the tax, the immigration, the wealth tax, etc. What else, Pedro, we are having here?
Listen, does my marital status matter? Currently single and partner, but understanding that being married may provide advantages. Joint tax return, individual tax returns, all assets will be joined. Well, we spoke about, obviously, it's a property, and if it's bought by 2 people, will be divided into 2. If it's owned by 1 person, will be, obviously, when wealth tax comes, then individually the exemption is 700,000 euros. This is a good point in order to reduce the wealth tax. And for residents, whenever you become resident, there is 2 options in order to declare and pay tax accordingly, individually or maybe jointly. Sometimes it's more benefit to do it jointly, sometimes it's more benefit to do it individually. It's going to be depend on the difference, basically, the difference on income between the marriage. Okay, well, let's go for the following one.
Right, let's go to the other chat here.
It's a little bit up there.
Where we left?
A little bit more, I think it's, okay. Okay, well, is it by John, if we buy a home by both, do we split the tax in the top? Yeah, that's right. Okay, is the wealth tax only on Spanish income on property for non-residents? Is the wealth, no, not in Spanish. This is not, the wealth tax is not taxing the income. It's just for the assets that you own in Spain. Mostly the real estate. In some ways, it's some because of a double taxation duty, even though you have a bank account. So in some countries shouldn't be included. But let's talk about the property in this case, property, not income. No, it's just owning a property, owning an asset is a wealth. Okay. Okay. And well, we already spoke about that one.
Let me just add you a little bit here of information for those who didn't get it from the beginning. Always 1st of January to the 31st of December in a calendar year, right? First. Second, less than 183 days. 3, what you need to do is check your dual taxation treaty, okay, whether it excludes certain things or not. 4, if you have a property in Spain, check out whether you've got the IBI or the rate tax or the purchase price, and do the non-resident tax per person. So this value were total, but per person will be 104,500, right? This one. More questions. Renting property, don't forget, income minus expenses, net figure, different percentages. And the wealth tax, as we say, for non-resident, and depending on what community you're in, we'll be talking about per person an allowance of 700,000 euros. And we'll be talking about in general property, but double check the dual taxation treaty. These are things, Pedro, they need to bear in mind. And if you are abroad and you're planning, let's do planning. If you're already in Spain, let's discuss it. If you need to discuss possible different scenarios where you want to be in, okay? Because at the end of the day, you're the one who control your life, the timing, etc., etc. And if you have, and if you want more information, just contact us, send us a message, video conference through the website, and we could organize.
Yeah, we would be pleased, obviously, to assist you in a video conference anytime. You just send us an email, and we will be happy to assist you. Okay, let's go for rapid. I'm reading some questions by Yoga. Is regarding if you have a property you are renting it through a Spanish rental agent. Okay, well, as we said, if you are in a European Union country or Norway, Iceland, and you rent the property, you will be able to deduct some amortization, the cost of repairing, and also the fees of a real estate agent. Okay, if you are not resident in a European Union country, Norway or Iceland, and then you will not be able to deduct, and you will have to pay 24% gross amount of the income that you get. Okay, Christopher, thank you, Christopher, for the question. I have stayed more than 183 days, so you will be tax resident for 2022. You will have to declare your worldwide income from the 1st of January to 31st of December. And if the following year you say, what if I stay less? Obviously, you will become non-resident, and this is going to be a matter of proof. Obviously, what I suggest you make the tax declaration as resident in Spain, but the following year you do it in a non-resident, and you may be inspected. You have to be prepared in this way that because of being resident and non-resident, obviously, as you said, I think you mentioned that to make it some kind of information to the tax office, you say, I'm not tax resident anymore. Okay, how do we work out our tax value of our property? I mean, for non-resident tax, catastral value, it says in the council tax, or if it's an off-plan, then 50% of a property value that says in the deed. And if it is for wealth tax, the highest one of catastral value inspected by tax office, or the purchase price. So we normally see purchase price. Okay.
So we're going, Pedro, we're going about these escritura and the summa, yeah?
Exactly. That's for non-resident tax, owning a property.
Of course, of course. Okay.
Okay, and what else do we have?
I don't know if you have more questions, please send it over to us. Actually, I don't know if we did answer most of them, Pedro.
I mean, from Praful, thank you, Praful. It says, I'm not resident and have held the property for more than 10 years. Which calculation applies to me? Catastral, I think, has already been explained. I read one other question. Let me just check. Okay, that one from Mark. That's a very interesting one. Mark says, I'm an EU non-resident and I'm not renting out a property in Spain. He bought it in February 2022. He already knows the catastral value, which is 17,900 euros. And how is my wealth property calculated, I mean, it's non-resident tax because you own a property in Spain, as has been duly explained.
What area, Pedro, in Spain does it say?
It doesn't say that.
If you could please
It
mention.
doesn't say that, but then it says, and this is a really good question, says, do I have to add property value abroad and money in foreign banks? No. Okay, you are non-resident, you just have to include for non-resident tax your property, and in case that you have to make wealth tax, apart from that, is just for the assets that you have in Spain, nothing outside Spain. And in many countries also, even you have bank accounts in Spain, in many cases shouldn't be included also. There's a property in many cases, okay? So everything which is abroad Spain do not have to be included.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, it's important to work out your figures specifically, so we could work it out. You know, every scenario is different. Every country has a different agreement, dual taxation treaty. That's why I want you to leave probably this room here with something clear. As I said, always less than 183 days in a calendar year. 2, always the price of the catastral or the purchase price. And your lawyer, or we can help you, will be able to work out how much and is the formula. Then if you're renting it out, important, always paperwork. Don't forget paperwork. I will not be tired of saying, keep the paperwork, at least scanning your computer. Income minus expenses, 19 and 24. And the wealth tax, non-resident tax. But everything could be controlled and planned, because at the end of the day, this is a simulation if an S scenario. But what about if the S scenario changes, or you prefer to have it in a different place? So automatically disappears. As Pedro stated, this is one formula, having a company is another formula, not having the money in Spain is another formula, not having. So as I said, important, be very well advised. And Pedro, I think, do we have anything else?
Well, there are some other questions here, but obviously we will be pleased to assist you and
Yes.
I've been to conference personally, and
Okay.
there are plenty of questions that we don't have time. We have 6 minutes.
Right. So as I said, thank you, Mark.
Well,
I think we
thank
have
you,
Mark.
of you.
Yeah.
Let me just mention of you, Yoga, Mark. There are different Marks. I will not say the surname. Thank you, John. And thank you, Clive. And thank you, Michael, Rebecca, and Goldwell. But there are many people. That
And more than
have
40 people were live.
Just
Yeah?
for not being able to answer all of the questions. We have plenty of them. We have dozens of them who have not been answered. But thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for making this effort. And we will be pleased to assist you whenever you are able, whenever you want to. Just send us an email, and we will be pleased to assist you.
Yeah, and then we'll be seeing you probably in 2023.
Yeah, because this is going to be the last webinar.
Yeah, this is our last webinar for this year. And we take the opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas, very Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad in Spanish.
And we will be seeing Have a Love to Run. Yeah. Right at Newgate. And enjoy the time, and hopefully see you in 2023. If you need to contact us before we go on holidays, please send us an email. I will be emailing you now or sending our email address, but it's easy to find us. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Juanfran, who has a lovely, beautiful video about living in Spain, just flying over Spain. See you very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Feliz Navidad. How to buy a house in Spain as a foreigner.
To buy a property in Spain in accordance with the legislation, the first step is to check the legal situation.
What taxes do foreigners pay in Spain?
In total, there are 5 Spanish taxes that every foreigner is obliged to pay. 1.
How are inheritances regulated in Spain?
Inheritance tax is a progressive tax.
Where to apply for the Golden Visa?
The first thing you should do is go to the Spanish consulate in the country where you live. all the necessary documentation to obtain it.
You can't stop thinking about it. That hidden cove, just for you. That little hideaway in the mountains. Or that beautiful postcard town. Dreaming about enjoying the fresh air again. Feeling the sun on your skin. Exploring. Walking. Traveler, there is no path. Paths are made by walking. Never stop dreaming. Spain will wait.